Good morning, everyone. My name is Danielle, and on behalf of the Wood County Committee on Aging, we welcome you to our Care Compass project. This is a quarterly program. It is supported by many great organizations such as Brookdale at Bowling Green, the Wood County Hospital, the Wood County Committee on Aging, Ohio Living, Golden Care Partners. And at this time, this quarter, we are working on self-care. I'd like to welcome our first speaker, Terry Lauer from Wood County Hospital, and the topic is energy boosters.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get the screen share here. So let me get this started. Okay, can everyone see that? Thumbs up. Awesome, okay, we're good to go. I am Terry Lauer, and I am Director of Wellness and Occupational Medicine here at Wood County Hospital. I've been here for about 12 years, and I was very thrilled to be asked to speak at this during this presentation because wellness is a really important part of our lifestyles. And we really have to make that sort of our center of our health. And basically, when we look at statistics, 80% of our chronic conditions are from our lifestyle choices that we select. And to be considered a well individual, they also say that we have to meet many dimensions of wellness. And that can be your emotional side, your social, your spiritual, your physical, your nutritional. And then we look at occupational, financial, many different things that we have to work on. And we have all these balls up in the air. And then you throw on being a caregiver on top of that. It can be very stressful and it can take a toll on everyone. So caregiving can affect the caregiver's life in many ways, including your ability to work, or maybe you're still working in the workforce, or engaging in social interactions or relationships, and even maintaining good mental and physical health. But caregiving can also be a positive thing because it can give you great satisfaction, and it can also strengthen relationships. And ultimately, it can improve quality of life, right? But it's critical to understand that the physical and the mental sides of these can be very hard on a body, and it's important for us to understand these things so we can have a good sense of well-being. So I wanted to give you some statistics. This just came out from National Alliance for Caregiving and ARP in 2020, and sort of gave us a breakdown of the health of the caregivers. Who are the caregivers out there? And they have reported that 39% of the caregivers are men, with 61% being women. And in those generations, 34% are the baby boomers. And just to give you an idea, those are usually 56 to 74-year-olds. And then we're followed by the Gen X, which is usually the 40 to 55-year-olds. And then even the millennials are the next ones, and that is usually the 24 to 39-year-olds. So those are the ones that are basically the basic caregivers that are going on. 61% of these people are employed, and 1 in 5 provide unpaid care to an adult with health needs. And the interesting fact is 45% have had at least one financial impact, with 24% care for more than one person. And that could be maybe aging parents. That could be maybe the sandwich generation, where you're caring for your children along with your parents. So that's a pretty significant number, as well as 26% are caring for someone with dementia or Alzheimer's, which can really take a toll on the body physically and mentally. But these are important statistics here, is that 21% of these people report that their own health is in fair to poor condition, and 23% say caregiving has made their health worse. So all the more reason that we really need to focus on ourselves and making sure that we stay healthy and we can take care of ourselves, because again, these kinds of stresses can really lead to health conditions long term. And if we aren't taking care of ourselves, who's going to take care of our loved ones? So we really have to first identify what is stress. So basically, stress is your body's response to something that's real or an imagined threat, either on your body or on your mind. And basically, that actual threat, or it could be an event, or it could be a situation, is actually the stressor. So the stressor is something that's making me respond. And so therefore it could be a major life event, could be a situation, it could be a location, it could be a certain person. And that kind of stressor can cause a stress. Now, some quantities of stress is good. So let's just take, for example, going on a vacation. It's stressful. You have to pack. You have to kennel the dog. You have to make sure that everyone's taken care of, that your house is secure. You stop the mail. That's a lot of stress, a lot of running around. But long term, guess what? It's going to be something good at the end. But when we have too much stress or a strong response to stress, that's when it can become very harmful to us. And then there's also different types of stress. There's a physical stress, which is basically like your physical activities and your events. So maybe you're not getting enough sleep, or maybe you're on your feet a lot. Maybe you're lifting and pulling with the care of your loved one. Or maybe you're just running around and just trying to get a lot of errands done or doctor's appointments. It can be very physically taxing. And then we have the emotional kind of stress, which is usually the most common. And this can be a breakup or a divorce, maybe a loss of a loved one. Maybe it's a fight with your spouse or significant other. It could be mood swings. It could be just the isolation that we're also feeling because of COVID, or just feeling really overwhelmed with maybe all the issues that you're dealing as a caregiver. And then there's also behavioral stress, which basically it's things that we're doing to our own selves, like not eating, or maybe eating too much and putting weight on, or maybe we're using drugs or alcohol or tobacco, or maybe we're just a procrastinator, or just avoiding all responsibilities. That can be a behavioral stress. But then you also have the financial stress, where maybe there's a loss of job. Maybe we're living paycheck to paycheck. That could be very, very stressful. And the unfortunate thing is you can have multiple stresses occurring at the same time, which again makes it even harder for our bodies to respond and to be healthy. So we have to recognize the symptoms of stress. First of all, unhealthy habits that we can do: smoking, overconsumption of food or alcohol, or maybe reverting to drugs. Emotional symptoms, constantly worrying, anxious, angry about things. Also, there's physical symptoms. So maybe you have constant headaches or backaches, or maybe rapid breathing, maybe a little chest pain with it, sweating. Your GI system could be affected, where maybe you're having a lot more heartburn or reflux, or maybe nausea, or maybe diarrhea, or even constipation. But you can also be very irritable, frustrated, angry, can't concentrate on things, but also just really generally exhausted and fatigued from everything that you're experiencing in life. And basically, this zaps our energy. It empties our tank. So some of these things that we sort of already talked about are hectic lifestyles. We try to flip the energy switch from fatigue to fired up. And, we look at these choices that we make everyday life. So the stress that we're under, our excessive weight, maybe lack of exercise, or maybe too little of sleep, or maybe even our diet just really stinks. It really is affecting our energy levels. And then emotional stress, obviously the things we talked about already, and just not getting the appropriate amount of sleep can really zap our energy, as well as boredom. Trying to sort of spin in our wheels and reverting to maybe tobacco or food to help with some of those boredom things. Lack of exercise, poor eating habits, increasing caffeine because you're trying to stay awake and you're trying to get that energy to be able to get everything accomplished. But attacking any one of these areas would definitely give us more energy. But ideally, we really want to improve all 7 of these things. And if you really think about it, our body requires a lot of energy, because we have about 100 trillion cells in our body, and each of those require energy to function. So if we don't have that tank full and that energy, our bodies are not going to work correctly or to our best that it can. So we're going to talk about energy boosters. There's many different things that we can do. Some of those things we can't change, but these are some of the things that we can focus on and we can change. One of them would be reducing the stress in our lives, avoiding tobacco, using caffeine wisely, not really relying on the caffeine to get us through the day, drinking water, increasing our exercise habits, lightening the load, limiting alcohol, eat for energy, and sleep well. So that's a lot of tough things to look at, but it's all doable. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at each one of these things to give you some tips on ways that you can improve these situations to be able to give you a little bit more energy and prevent that stress from setting in. So sleeping well. Basically, the general guidelines say if you're in teenage years, they require about 9 hours of sleep. But for adults, it's about 7 to 8 hours would be excellent. And if you look at statistics, about 2/3 of the adults suffer from sleep problems, whether it's insomnia or restless leg syndrome or sleep apnea, or as we age, the overactive bladder in the middle of the night. And as we age, our sleep does become more interrupted because of these things. So some tips for a good restful night is, one, eliminate the noise. So if you have a lot of things that are going on or a lot of people in the home, try to eliminate the noise the best you can. Close your door to your room. Maybe wear earplugs if you have to at night. If your significant other is a snorer, that might be something, or maybe sleep in a different room to be able to get a good night rest. Sometimes we have those white noise boxes where it can play relaxing tones and sounds, whether it's a waterfall or birds chirping or something that can sort of give you a nice restful night. Those are very helpful. The other thing is bed sharing. Don't put pets or children in your bed because, again, they're moving at night, they're up, they're barking, they might be laying on top of you or kicking you in the middle of the night, and it does wake you up. So make sure that you try to keep those things out of your bed. Also, develop a routine. This can be very helpful to get a good night's sleep. Maybe taking a warm shower or bath before you go to bed or after a very stressful day can help your body relax. But you can also do some quiet activities, such as instead of watching TV at night, maybe an hour before going to bed, go into a darkened room. Listen to some relaxing music or maybe read a book. Something that isn't going to be waking you up with bright lights and lots of sound. Those are sometimes helpful things you can do. The other thing is you want to manage the light because, again, when we are in sleep pattern, melatonin is released, and it's a hormone that sort of regulates our sleep-wake cycle. So we want to have that melatonin flowing at night. And the more that we are exposed to light and sound and blinking lights, like from a TV flickering, that can wake up our circadian rhythm. And it will stop the melatonin flowing, and it will release other chemicals that will keep us awake. So try to manage that light a little bit and keep the blue light out of your room. So no computers, no iPads, no cell phones. Try to eliminate those from your bedroom because, again, that can wake you up in the middle of the night because you can see through your eyelids. The other thing is even if you have a really bright alarm clock that illuminates the room, that might be something that you either want to turn around or put something over it, or maybe put it under the bed. I hide mine under the bed so I can't see the bright red light because my alarm is still going to be set, but the lights are not going to keep me awake. And the other thing is try to keep regular sleep schedules. Avoid the naps in the afternoon because, again, if we're going to be napping, we're not going to be sleeping at night, and then we're going to wake up very lethargic, grumpy, and tired. So try to avoid those naps, and if you're tired, go to bed. I have to say I'm preaching to the choir on this one because sometimes by 10 o'clock, I get my second wind, and then I'm up till 12:30, and I'm very tired the next day. So at nighttime, if you're tired, go to bed and try not to get to that point where you get that second wind. And again, avoid watching TV in bed. Because like I said, those bright lights can do the opposite effect and they can wake you up. The other thing is a lot of times you can be watching something that can excite you or scare you or cause fear. I've waken up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I thought, oh, I'll just turn the TV on. And so what am I watching? Like these ghost shows. And then I'm all fearful because of all the ghosts I'm hearing about in the middle of the night. Not a good thing to be looking at 2 o'clock in the morning. So try to avoid watching TV in bed and just remove that from your bedtime ritual altogether. And then another thing, when you wake up in the morning, wake that clock up. Get that biological clock going. Open up those drapes in the morning, because what that will do is the melatonin will decrease, and then we'll also release our stimulating hormones like the serotonin levels, and that will start out your day. So what you can do is open those drapes up, immerse yourself in the sunlight just within 5 minutes of waking. That will wake you up, that will give you a sense of alertness, and will start off your day really well. And one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to set that snooze. Set the alarm, get up, but don't hit the snooze button because you think that extra 5 or 15 minutes is going to give you a lot more rest. It really is not doing that for you. So set that alarm to the time that you need to get up, and you have your feet hit the floor and open up those drapes and take a look at the beautiful day. Another thing we need to do is just control the stress. We want to stress less because, again, being stressed is really linked to tiredness. So the key to, especially being a caregiver, is you got to find that me time. You got to schedule that me time, because if we don't have that, we might have resentment. We're going to be tired. We're going to be angry. It's going to be sort of always a routine. And you want to find that little time that you can carve out, whether it's going out for a walk and just enjoying the fresh air. Maybe it's taking a bubble bath, or maybe it's enjoying some little bit of free time with your friends, or going to the library, reading a book, whatever it might be. But find that time, put it in your schedule, because it's something that you deserve and something that you can, you look forward to every time. And that will fill your tank a little bit more for the next week. The other thing you can do to control stress is read. Just delving into a nice book or a Kindle definitely will help get your mind off the stress and be able to think about different things. And journaling is always a great stress reliever. Basically, you can journal your thoughts, your fears, your ideas, your anxiety, your happy episodes. Write it down. Because what you'll do is you'll just sort of take all those pressures off your shoulder, and you wrote it in a book. You didn't hurt anybody's feelings. You didn't say anything bad. It's all written on paper, and you can leave it in your book and look at it later, or you can rip it out, throw it away, and be gone with it. So journaling is a really exceptional way to deal with some of the stress. Another one is go for a walk. I know Carlton was just talking briefly about going to the metro parks. What a great opportunity to take advantage of days such as this. Enjoying that weather, enjoying the sunshine, getting that fresh air can make all the world of a difference. And then you want to lighten the load. So this is where you have to reevaluate and reprioritize what's going on in your life. You have to evaluate what's important. I always tell people, don't sweat the small stuff. And I think sometimes we as caregivers think that we have to be, the Superman or the Superwoman. And it can really be stressful trying to fit up to that kind of name, right? So basically, look at the things that you're doing and what things are really not important, and focus on those important things. And a lot of times I tell people, you know what? Look at what do you have control over. Reevaluate and see what do you have control over. If you don't have control over it, it does not require your time to worry about it. You can only worry about the things that you can make changes on. So again, lighten that load, take some of the stress off, and reevaluate those kinds of situations. And the other thing is breathe. Breathing sends a signal to the brain and your body that it's safe to relax, and you can return you to a calmer state. So just by taking some deep breaths in and releasing that can definitely control that stress. And laughter is extremely important, and it helps to release endorphins and those feel-good chemicals. So get a good joke book, get a riddle book, laugh with friends, laugh at yourself. It's okay to do that because, again, it's very healthy and it's very good for your body. And then practice relaxation techniques. This is another way to control stress. Deep breathing. Take a deep breath in and release it slowly. Very good way. Also, visual imagery, where you're envisioning your happy place, and try to envision where you're at. Mine is always the beach. So I try to listen for the waves or the birds flying over, or smelling that fresh air. And if once you get into that vision, your body will totally relax. Or you can also go from head to toe, constricting your muscles and then relaxing those muscles. And that can really help with a lot of the stress immediately. And the other thing is mindfulness. Be present in the moment. Close your eyes, take that deep breath and relax. Listen to what your body's saying to you and what you need. Just really focus on what's happening around you, within you, and try to focus on those things to make positive changes. So meditation is a great thing. Really positive outcome. It reduces stress, lowers blood pressure, promotes well-being. It also creates a surge of the feel-good hormones. So if you can just meditate for 30 minutes a day, it really will refocus your attention, it can help you be alert. It just helps you have a little bit more energy and calmness in your life. Now, sometimes meditation is hard because your mind will zip away and focus on something that you have to do, or your to-do list, but just bring it back in and just focus on your breathing. And how you do that is just slow, deep cleansing breaths in, and on your out breath, repeat a positive word. Maybe it's love, joy, peace, stress less, gratitude, whatever it might be. And focus on that. And even as you say those words, you can almost feel the weight lifted off your shoulders. And start with this mindfulness before your feet even hit the floor. You can lay in bed and practice this, even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes, and work your way up to 30 minutes. It's going to be beneficial in the long run. You can also do yoga. Yoga is very helpful, especially with stiffness. As we get older, we do stiffen up. So we want to make sure that we don't have any back injuries or hip injuries or leg injuries. And by stretching can definitely help that. And enhances your performance of tasks, concentration, visual scanning abilities, as well as repetitive motor skills. So basically what you want to do is focus on your breath during stretching and strengthening. It warms up your body, and it can only take up to 30 seconds just to stretch from head to toe. And if you do this the first thing in the morning, it's going to start your day out on a really positive note. You're going to have a lot of energy. The other thing we have to do is make sure that we eat for energy. You don't want to go hungry. Sometimes we're so busy that we skip the meals, or, oh my goodness, I missed lunch already. You want to make sure that you plan your day out where you can have small, frequent meals. And when you're doing that, you want to make sure that you're watching your sugar content, especially if you're a diabetic or borderline. You want to be careful with this because sugar will wear off really quickly. And so maybe your blood sugar will rise quickly and it'll give you that energy, but then all of a sudden it will bottom out. And so what you're going to do is you're going to look for something sweet again to be able to have that feeling. So again, avoid the vending machines, try to avoid the sugary things, and try to eat from your food groups. The other thing is staying hydrated is extremely important because our body is made up of 75% of water, and dehydration can happen rather quickly because we lose water through urine and sweat. And so we have to make sure that we drink enough to compensate for that loss. So making sure that we have a water bottle. I encourage people to get a 32-ounce water bottle and carry it around. So your goal would be from when you wake up to lunchtime, finish that water bottle. And then at lunch, fill it up, and then try to finish it before dinner time. And by the dinner time hour, you've gotten all the water in for the day that you really need. And it's also going to prevent you from having to get up in the middle of the night to go to urinate because, again, by dinner time, you've pretty much have that worked out of your system. The other thing is you have to remember that when you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated, so you're sort of behind the 8 ball. So you want to make sure that you can get your water content in to make sure that you stay well hydrated because, again, that does affect your health. You also want to watch your calorie content, because calories in versus calories out, especially with COVID right now, you're maybe not as active as you were before. You're not out and about as much. So you want to make sure that you make healthy choices when you're eating and keeping those calories down. And you want to pick the perfect protein too. So stay away from the deep fried things and then pick more of the leaner proteins. In addition, you want to make sure that you watch your caffeine and your alcohol content, because caffeine is a dehydrant. And the more we do that, it's going to dehydrate us more. And also alcohol is more of a diuretic. So we're going to be keeping us up maybe more in the middle of the night. So be careful and keep those to a limit if at all possible. So the biggest thing is making sure you're also getting your breakfast in. Okay, breakfast is the important part of the day because you're fasting all night and your brain, your heart muscles are sort of relaxing at that point. But your body is almost like a car. For your car to work right, you need the gasoline, right, to get it to move. Well, your body needs the same thing, but its fuel is glucose. So you need to get food in the body. And your body is a very unique thing, because if you don't give it glucose, basically what's going to happen is it's going to rob that energy it needs from all your muscles in the body. Your heart's a muscle, all your major muscle groups, all that is going to be robbed from good nutrients. So again, that can affect the health of your body. So making sure that you're eating is going to be really important. And by eating, it improves your memory, your concentration, your solving ability, and just not being grumpy. So the mood is definitely affected by getting the food into your diet, especially at breakfast. So what do? Eat. Remember those 6 small meals a day. If you're a busy person and you're, like I said, caretaking can be very, very busy, especially if you're trying to meet doctor's appointments and those things. So maybe what you need to do is plan ahead, but pack the night before. If you can have all these things ready, it's easy to grab. I will usually make a veggie tray or a fruit tray and put it in the refrigerator. So those are my things that I can snack on. Or maybe get a basket of apples. Great time of the year to have apples on the table, have them all cleaned, and grab one running out of the house. Those are great things to do. But the other thing is, a time-saving tip is get the grab-and-go foods. So you can get, like I said, the fruit that's already cut up or the vegetables that are cut up. You can do baggies of cereal. You could do like a protein shake or a carnation breakfast or string cheese or hard-boiled egg. Make them easy things that you can grab on the go that's going to be healthy. And then exercise. I mean, here is a long list of things that are so positive by just incorporating some exercise into your diet or into your daily routine. Again, heart disease, diabetes, and obesity, it reduces the risk, but it also improves the circulation. And you can see down the list, it relieves stress, it helps your memory, it improves your mood. But look at the next one. It cuts risk of heart attacks and stroke by at least 20%. That's pretty amazing. And I also read that if you exercise, it can cut your breast cancer risk by 60%. So it's extremely important to try to make this part of your daily routine. And so there you can see sedentary people increase energy by 20% and decrease that fatigue by 65%. So with those kinds of statistics, it's important. So the key is to get moving. Ensure that nothing gets in your way. So I always tell people, put it in your calendar. When you put it in your calendar, you're going to do it. Usually the one thing that we sort of knock off our calendar because our calendar is chock full is the exercise. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, I'll do it the next day. And then it eventually doesn't happen. So you want to make sure that you can get it on your calendar and get it scheduled and stick with it, just like you would a doctor's appointment. And then also develop a cheerleader or buddy system. If you can do these kinds of exercises or walking or whatever it is with a buddy or a loved one or a significant other, it's helpful because the days you're not feeling like going out for that walk, they're going to encourage you to do that, and it's going to be vice versa. And sometimes it's just the hardest part is get out there and start it, but once you're doing it, you feel great. So you just need that little nudge to be able to get out there and do that, and the buddy system definitely does that. So what to do? Basically, if you can try to get 15 to 30 minutes of your favorite exercise in most days of the week, that's beneficial. You know, you can walk the dog, you can run or walk to the market or go to the library or park farther out in the parking lot or take the stairs instead of the escalators. Those are all great ways. And no one says that you have to do this exercise all at the same time. You can break that up in 10-minute increments. So it can be 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, 10 minutes in the evening. And it's going to be very beneficial, and it's going to fill that tank up that you need. And then the other thing is stretch while you're waiting for coffee to brew. You can do some lunges while you're brushing your teeth, or just take a 10-minute walk with the dog or spouse or kids. It's a great way for bonding. But the other thing is too, I heard that even if you do wall push-ups every time you go to the bathroom or every time you get a drink of water, you could do 80 to 100 wall push-ups a day. Imagine how strong you'll be. So if you can do these kinds of things, it will definitely be a benefit. And then if you're a smoker, you want to quit smoking. It's very harmful to all the organs, lots of increase of health conditions. Nicotine also causes insomnia, but cigarettes and tobacco has over 4,600 different kinds of chemicals that are harmful to the body, let alone the tar that builds up in the lungs. It can reduce the efficiency. And it reduces your oxygen to your body organs, and it increases carbon monoxide. And you're going to feel tired and lung congestion and have lots more issues, especially in the wintertime. So if you're wanting to quit, you can always contact us at the Wellness Department of the hospital. We can help. You can contact the American Heart Association or American Lung Association. They have great programs as well. Or even just check in with your doctor, and they can give you some great resources as to what you can do. So just as a wrap up, again, these are the things that you can do. Add your water, making sure you're eating frequently with low calories, limiting that sugar intake, getting the breakfast in, watching your caffeine. Avoid those energy drinks. Those are very harmful. So try to stay away from those and limit that alcohol. Rest and relaxation. Make sure that you take time for yourself to see your doctor and get your regular checkups. If you're diabetic or hypertensive, you want to make sure that you're seeing the doctor or getting those blood sugars checked or blood pressures checked, or get a machine at your home that you can do these things. But you want to make sure that you're in top-notch health to be able to take care of those people, of your loved ones. And again, exercise. But this was an interesting thing that I found as well. It's about smelling citrus. You know, if you can smell something citrusy for 10 minutes, it's proven that you can improve your mood for 30 minutes. So get some lemons, get some oranges, stick them around the house. It might really be helpful in improving your mood, as well as chew peppermint gum. Again, that improves alertness, so you're not trying the caffeine and the other kinds of things, but it will definitely improve your day. It will fill your tank, and it will give you the energy that you need. So I'm going to open this up to any kind of questions that you might have.
All right, so if anyone would like to remove I'm going to unmute them to provide the opportunity to ask a question to Terry. Anybody have any questions at this time?
Danielle?
Yes.
I put a question out on chat. I don't know if you want to read it or...
Sure can. So it says, my wife took Tai Chi classes 2 to 3 times a week prior to COVID. However, recently she expressed an interest in trying yoga. That is something we could possibly do together. Would you recommend any websites that we could stream to attempt yoga at a beginner's level?
I can certainly try to find some of those. I know there's a lot of videos out there. I know there's even yoga classes for the 60 and over. So what I will do is I will try to find some of those sites for you, and I will share those with Danielle, and she could pass those along to you. I don't know any off the top of my head, but I know there are many out there, especially since COVID's been in place. A lot more programs have come out. So I will certainly share those with Danielle.
Perfect. And just so you know as well, we do offer Tai Chi for fall prevention and balance online via Zoom. Those are one of our fitness classes, as well as silver sneakers twice a week. So I can get you that information too. All right, any other questions for Terry?
The other thing I was going to say was possibly Carlton, if you're familiar with YouTube. Unfortunately, I have a 10-year-old who's familiar with YouTube, but you can also Google videos. Just type in beginner yoga, and they will come up with numerous yoga videos for you that you can follow.
Absolutely. Good idea.
I could try that, but I'm just a little hesitant because, you know, there's so much out there on YouTube.
Yes.
And some of it, you know, is better than other, you know, and I thought maybe you might know what better beginner type yoga would be that we could try.
Just maybe even starting with some chair yoga, Carl, if that's something that you wanted to try.
Oh, just sitting in a chair. Okay.
Yeah, and then you can, as you get stronger, build strength too, or you're more comfortable, you can then move to the mat.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it just gives you that stability.
I might have to purchase a mat. Janice, do we have mats? I don't think so. Oh, you know, she's still muted.
Oh, I did try to unmute everybody, but no one, you have to accept my unmuting.
Oh, okay. She's not hearing any of this then.
Yeah. All right, any additional questions at this time? Well, wonderful. We really appreciate Terry joining us today. So great presentation, some very valuable information. Just as a reminder, it is recorded, so we will be able to share it with your family and friends on our YouTube channel, Wood County Committee on Aging, INC. And we thank Terry again for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next session, we are going to present strategies for self-care and resilience. And in this session, we welcome Francesca Lace from the Wood County Health Department.
Hi, guys. That's a hard presentation to follow. She was very organized. I come from a kind of a clinical therapist background, so I'm used to talking versus showing things on screen. So this is really important when we talk about self-care. She had a lot of great things that she identified that you guys can already do. My goal is at the end of this, engage you guys in an activity that you can do in your chair, kind of what she was talking about earlier with imagery. To give you guys an example today of engaging in that self-care. So when we think of self-care, we basically think of, well, how do we take care of ourselves, right? And I want you to think back to how do we learn to take care of ourselves? Do we watch others? Do we learn it on our own? I mean, think of how your parents might have engaged in taking care of themselves and how you were raised. This we'll talk about later in resiliency too. But there are 4 types of self-care. So self-care is really looking at having positive thoughts, reassuring positive affirmations. Positive affirmations are, and I tend to use those daily to deal with my own stress, is I am good enough. I can do this. So there's 4 stages of self-care, 4 different concepts. The first one is emotional. How well are you guys at being able to identify your feelings, just in general? Because I know when I work with a lot of patients, and I work with patients from 6 years old up to 90 years old, a lot of the older population that I work with tend to use kind of anger as a default emotion versus being able to identify, I'm sad, I'm hurt, I'm frustrated, right? Anger is kind of that default mechanism. But being able to identify those emotions so that you're taking care of yourself, so that you're not this closet door, and when one thing happens, everything just falls out, right? And I'm sure you can relate to that. Like you just hold everything in, and then finally it just breaks. You're so busy caring for others, and you haven't taken that time to care for yourself, and you just finally lose it. and whatever lose it may look like. The next one would be physical. I believe it was Lauren was kind of talking about this too. I had the opportunity of working in primary care, so I work side by side with a nurse practitioner and a doctor. And the one thing is, you get so busy caring for other people, you cancel your own appointments for your own health care, right? And that is so important. Just as she started talking about, when we're so busy, we don't eat healthy, we don't take the time to exercise, we kind of put our needs to the side. So one of those things is to help with the physical is keeping your doctor's appointments, doing your annual wellness checks, getting out, and even if you can do 10 minutes of exercise a day, not only does that help your physical, but that is the number one thing over any antidepressant for your mental health that you can do to improve your mood, is really get those dopamines going, get your adrenaline going, excuse me, but really releasing some of that energy. The next one would be, so we've talked about emotional, physical, and the next one would be, psychological. What is your personal and professional growth? And most, I won't say most, but a lot find themselves retired and caregiving. So they may not have anything professionally, but we still kind of need to be involved with our community. Just as they were talking about having the Tai Chi online or getting to your library, volunteering, those kind of things can be looked at as far as taking care of your psychological health. The other thing too is when you're caretaking for someone, how many times do you get frustrated? How many times does your day just not go as it's supposed to? Either for them or you, right? It can be very challenging. You can almost feel defeated at times. Part of that is coming back in and being able to face those challenges and looking at that as opportunity for growth. How can we learn from today? How can we problem solve what happened today? And one of those may be, I wasn't taking care of myself today and really being in tune with how I was feeling. And I kind of displaced that onto the person that I was taking care of, right? And sometimes too, if we don't get enough sleep, I don't know about you guys, I'm a hot mess the next day. I'm cranky, I'm irritable, I tend to overeat. So again, that sleeping and eating, all that kind of helps with our psychological support and kind of that self-care as well. The next one would be spiritual. And I know some people are like, well, I may not believe in God. Well, that's okay. Each person has their own belief. But what we mean by spiritual and self-care is, how do you ground yourself? How do you stay grounded? And maybe for some of you, it's pray daily. And maybe for some of you, it's just reading an inspirational book. So when I talk about self-care and being, spiritual self-care, it doesn't always mean that you have to go to church or you have to pray. There's other ways of filling that that sense of belonging. And again, she made such an important point earlier, and some of this will be overlapping. But if we can't take care of ourselves and we don't engage in that self-care, how can we take care of others? Right? Just like with me being a mom of a 10-year-old with COVID. And, you know, finding out this week we're in the red from Hancock County. I have to be able to deal with that, right? So I have to take care of myself so that I can model for my 10-year-old. Because if I start to lose it, what do you think is going to happen to her? She's going to lose it also. So those are just some of the things that I have as far as self-care. The one thing that she really talked about that I really like is laughing. Sometimes I just giggle. Like I thought my daughter was going to be home today. Today, Wednesday, is the only day I work remotely. And I thought, oh goodness, please don't ruin my presentation because I don't know what she's going to say or do. But I was so happy she was able to go to my parents today, but just being able to laugh about it, right? So sometimes too, when we're dealing with a crisis, we just have to laugh. And that really takes up, okay, what do we have control over, right? And then not really giving too much thought to those things that we can't control. The other thing too, coming along with affirmations, is we have to remind ourselves that we are not going to be a perfect caregiver, a perfect mother all day and every day. That's hard. That's hard. Now, some of the barriers, some of the things that, you know, might come in the way of to engage in your self-care is maybe you promised that loved one they wouldn't go to a nursing home. Maybe you said, you know, I promised my family that I would take care of them. And sometimes the health and their physical health just gets out of our hands, right? And the one thing when I was giving this presentation, looking at things I wanted to talk about, and this kind of goes back to the emotional self-care, was looking at guilt, right? Sometimes we have to make decisions, whether it's for their health care, whether it's for the person, you know, we're caring for, even for ourselves. And they're not easy. They're difficult, right? But really removing that guilt and really looking at it as regret. Because guilt means we did something wrong, right? And maybe it's not wrong. Regret is that you're in a difficult situation and you had to make a decision. And I'm sure there's many times throughout your life or your own being able to care for others that you've made mistakes, right? But you didn't make mistakes intentionally. So really kind of removing that guilt, looking what you have control over, and removing it to regret. And that's how we problem solve too, is learning from our mistakes, right? At least I do. Some of them I have to make 10 times before I learn from them, but that's just part of the experience. The other thing too is forgive yourself. And what does forgiving yourself look like? It may mean going back to just relaxing and breathing and using those affirmations, you know, I am okay. I can do this, especially in times and crises, because caring for other people and caring for yourself is not easy. And a lot of things happen that we don't intend to happen, right? So being able to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. The other thing is, as far as self-care, is having somebody to talk to, right? And you may say, well, I have my husband, I have my wife, I have my significant other. But most commonly what I hear is they just want to be listened to, right? And sometimes with our significant others or our partners or our family, they want to give us advice back. And sometimes I just don't want to hear the advice. I just want somebody to listen to me. And I'm hoping that a lot of you guys can relate to that. Sometimes you just need to talk. So making sure whether if it's your pastor, if it's somebody from the Wood County Committee on Aging, whether it's a therapist, somebody that you can talk to that just listens, right? Because sometimes we just need to be heard. And some of that is part of self-care also. The other thing too, as far as caregiving, is we get so busy. I think she was saying 65%, and I'm not sure, I could be wrong, are still in the workforce that are caring for others. So if you're still in the workforce, you come home, you care for that person, then you still have to take care of your own personal life and your own duties, right? If your wife, all those other things. Oh, that's cute. From Carlton, my wife and I sometimes have belly laughs when we stream the comedy shows from the 60s and 70s, and that's awesome. That may be for you guys, Carlton, the self-care is turning on those funny videos and just belly laughing. And that was the point I was coming to, was we get so busy that we need to take time for ourselves. We have to take a break from caregiving to others, right? Even if as a mother, if I don't take a break from being a mom and kind of refueling, I'm not going to be what I call emotionally intelligent. I'm going to be more irritable. But if I take a break, we can kind of refuel our tank, right? We can get something to eat. We can watch a funny movie and just take a break. And that's what we're going to kind of do at the end of this too, as long as I'm watching the time and I don't run out of time, to lead you on a kind of a exercise that you can do to engage in that self-care and kind of take a break from that day. And then the last thing that we'll kind of talk about as far as self-care, and you can go on and on and on, is really being able to ask for help, right? Because sometimes that goes back to a barrier. We feel like we should do it all on our own. And sometimes it's hard to keep up, right? So even as a parent, I have to ask my mom and dad, can I get an hour break? I need to refuel, right? I may be at work and I may reach out, to my nurse practitioner. You got a second? I really just need to kind of refuel. I just need somebody 5-10 minutes, right? Just not being ashamed, not feeling guilty of being able to ask for help. And I know that's really hard, because we want to be able to do it all. And unfortunately, we can't, right? So self-care, if I can reinforce anything, excuse me, is if we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not eating healthy, we're not taking a break like Carlton and his wife and giggling over, 60s and 70s shows. If we're not making our own doctor's appointments and making sure that we're taking care of ourselves, then we can't provide for others, right? And that's a tough job. So on self-care, we're going to kind of move to resiliency. And when I think of resiliency, or when I talk to patients, excuse me, I got to take a drink, about resiliency, we've all been resilient, right? It's able to overcome, and how we overcome different obstacles in our life. Right now, many of you are overcoming the elections, right? Some are very happy. For some, it's very traumatic. Resilient is really being about how do we overcome and how do we move forward. And when I asked you earlier about when you think of your childhood and you develop these mechanisms on kind of how to cope, we all develop these for protection. right? It helps us kind of maintain balance. When we look at resilience, people who are resilient are able to be optimistic, adapt to change, right? Think of COVID and how resilient all of you guys have had to be, whether you wanted to be or not. We all went into that kind of survival mode. What do we do? Right? How do we overcome something that I never thought we'd experience, or you guys, in our lifetime? Patience, right? Not knowing one day from the next what Governor DeWine is going to say, or what's going to happen in our county. You know, what does it mean if our significant other has to go into a nursing home? All of those things we have to be resilient about, of how do we overcome this and how do we move forward, right? And I think a lot of you can sit here and think of obstacles in your life, and maybe even today, as there's a lot going on right now, things that you look back now and you thought you would never overcome, right? And you made it. You did it. So when we look at resiliency, viewing change as an opportunity of growth. Also, somebody who is resilient is funny, is able to laugh, right? But also able to cry, but move forward, move along with it. Resilience is like a cartwheel, right? I don't know about you guys, and maybe some of you've never done a cartwheel, but the first time when I was younger and I tried to do a cartwheel, I fell over, right? With lots of practice, what happens? You better believe it, I nailed that cartwheel, right? But you learn how to do it right, and you may make some mistakes on the way. But once you keep doing it, it becomes a lot easier. And think of things that you have overcome, moved past, and move forward, and how good and successful you feel. It's a pretty good feeling, isn't it? On the other hand, though, one thing I want you to pay attention to is somebody who maybe doesn't have a strong resilience, able to overcome. Those may be people who are hopeless, disconnected. They can be disconnected from family, from friends. They tend to self-isolate, right? Stay to themselves. Depressed, tired all the time, just completely worn out. So those are some things to look for of people who may not be able to be resilient, right? They tend to go more into a crisis mode. So there's 7 routes to really being resilient. And so I'm going to start with the first one, which is really balancing your brain chemistry. And you're like, how do I balance my brain chemistry, right? It's those affirmations. It's those positive thoughts. It's that exercise. It's releasing that positive energy in your brain, right? It's being able to think positively, be able to identify your emotions. Okay, so really having a good head on your shoulders. The next one is managing your energy. Look at how much energy you're spending on things that you can't control versus things that you can. And even myself, even being a therapist, I've had to step back and be like, wow, I'm putting too much stress on these things that I cannot control. So I have to look at, hey, maybe there's some things in that area that I can't control that I actually can, and grasp onto those. The next one is aligning with nature. And you may be like, okay, what does aligning with nature mean? Right? That may be, and we talked about self-care and taking a time out, getting outside, whether it's sitting on your porch, it's opening your window, letting that fresh air in. Sometimes when I have difficult days, I practice mindfulness. And what I mean by mindfulness, and especially when it's gloomy out, you tend to notice that your mood gets more depressed, right? Even looking outside your window at how many different trees there are. When's the last time you stopped and looked out your window and said, well, how many trees are in my front yard? Right? We kind of take those things for granted. But if we practice mindfulness, I'm going to be looking at what kind of bark does that tree have? What kind of leaves does that tree have versus the other tree, right? And how many of you guys have actually stopped and paid attention in the moment? So that's mindfulness, really staying in the moment of the different leaves on the trees out there. If you take 10 to 15 minutes and just look out your window and be mindful and take in what you're seeing, you'd be amazed, right? It's even for me, sometimes I'll be walking and I've walked by this house 20 times, but I've never really seen the house till today, right? I'm not practicing mindfulness. And that's really being present of where you are and what's around you. Because we're always so busy thinking about everything else, right? But staying in the moment, getting aligned with nature. The next one is calming the mind. And that's the activity that I'm going to do here shortly for you guys, is really being able to calm the mind. She talked about that, those deep breaths. That's hard to do. One of the things, if you guys are willing, I'll just try to teach you right now while I'm thinking about it. It's called a 4-square breathing. So when we talk about 4-square breathing, you just have to be able to count to 4 and make a square. Okay? So what you do is you're going to inhale for 4 seconds down, exhale for 4 seconds across, inhale for 4 seconds up, just like you're making a square. Okay? That's what we call 4-square breathing. If you practice that, doing 4 breaths in, or to a time of 4, and making a square, you'll find your heart rate starts to calm down as well. So that's just an easy exercise that you can do with the breathing, is that 4-square breathing. The next one is being able to identify your emotions. And we talked about that in self-care. And when I talk about being emotionally intelligent, it means being able to identify our emotions, our feelings, being able to challenge barriers that we might have. The next one is really creating deep connections. Think about who you might have some deep connections with. Who can you communicate to? Who do you have meaningful relationships with? And then on the other hand, who do you need to set boundaries with? We all have family members that we need to set boundaries with, right? But being able to identify those boundaries that need set, as well as being able to identify our emotions. The next one is really having a good heart, right? Being able to move forward and look past mistakes to problem solve, we have to be optimistic. We have to be patient. We have to have that good heart. Make resiliency and self-care a priority. It is as taking a medication that you take every day, that you're giving the person that you're caring about every day. Again, because if we're not doing these things, then we can't care for others. So at this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you guys, we have about 15 minutes left, on just some imagery. One of the things that I really enjoy too, and Lauren agreed with me, is I don't know how much you guys love the beach. Now, I work with some coworkers and they don't like the hot weather. Me, my tranquility is sitting on a beach with my toes in the water. That's like my happy place. And being stuck in Ohio, it doesn't happen very much. So I have to close my eyes and I have to really create that vision and that warmth. So if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to just guide you on a beach guided imagery. And what this does, one, we're going to be practicing calming our mind, right? We're going to take a quick vacation, and you didn't even know that coming to this presentation. The other thing to keep in mind too is when we do this, everybody's beach is going to look differently. Maybe some of you guys have never been to a beach. So beach is only what you see on TV. So the beach, the different sounds, the different lights is really going to be different for all of you guys. Okay? And you guys deserve it. You guys deserve to take that time to really refuel. So you can either leave your eyes open or you can close your eyes, whatever you guys feel comfortable. Okay? And I'll give you a couple seconds to get comfortable, and you can participate or not, but even if you don't choose to participate, you'll still be able to vision some of the colors and things that I talk about to create something that makes you feel safe. And when you guys are ready, I will start. Just take a drink of water real quick. All right, so eyes open, or you can close your eyes. You're going to visualize yourself walking on a pier, descending from its long wooden stairway. Your arms are relaxed. Your feet are bare and damp, rough. Weathered steps feel warm and comforting. With each step, you feel tightness falling away from your shoulders. With each step, you're letting that tension go. You approach the final step into the sand. Bring your toes. This is your place of surrender. This is your place of peace. You look up. The shoreline stretches far into the distance. Deep turquoise waters reflect the sun. And you watch as colorful fish dart and dance in the water. Walk.
I accidentally muted you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Walking gently to the ocean's edge, you notice the waves. They're sweeping up strongly towards the shores. Your thoughts are still with you as they are present. Feel the warmth of the sun hitting your face. You draw in a long, deep breath of ocean air and slowly release. You begin to match your breath with the flow of the sea, matching your breath as the waves go in and out. The ocean calls, pulling back the waves like an unmade bed. You inhale. The water reaches you, and you welcome its current across your feet. It glides smoothly, moving sand on and about. You stare mesmerized as water and sand sweeping across your ankles, in between your toes, while your feet are being submerged. It is cool and comforting, drawing you deeper, restoring your calm. Your eyes follow its trail, pulling shells as though they were weightless and carrying them to the sea. You pause, imagining yourself at your destiny to become a tiny grain of sand. The gentle breeze shifts and presses lightly against your back. You get up and you rise and you continue to walk. Traces of salt left by the ocean's breath glisten on your skin. You can still feel the sun on your back, and you continue to walk. You treasure it a moment, enjoying the sweet lingering fragrance. Nearby, you notice a powdery, undisturbed patch of solace. You approach and sit, curling your toes into the sand. Closing your eyes, you settle in, taking long, deep breaths. Release and exhale into the wind any remaining apprehension, stress, feelings of anger, sadness, or fear. Allow yourself to rest. The sound of seagulls direct your eyes to the sky. You watch as they coast on current highs overhead. Rising farther away, their soft calls grow faint. You picture yourself gliding and soaring with them. You relax and rest deeper. Continue to accept this gift of peace. When you feel ready, gently return to the present, still relaxed, still at peace, carrying the warmth of the sun with you and sitting right where you are. So when you're ready, feel free to open your eyes, feel relaxed. Hopefully that kind of self-care activity was able to kind of take time for yourself today, take a little vacation, and really de-stress and feel a sense of empowerment. And that's it for my presentation today, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was just going to give an opportunity to see if anyone has a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'm going to unmute everyone. And feel free to ask any questions.
Or give any feedback.
Sure. You can put it in the
Really
chat.
enjoyed your presentation.
What did you say, Emmy?
And I really appreciated your presentation. I learned a lot from this.
Oh, good.
And I thought I knew it all before.
Oh, good. Thank you. You know what? I've been a therapist for 25 years and I'm still learning stuff. So I'm with you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Thank you guys for having me.
Yes, you did a wonderful job of sharing and providing great, valuable information about how we can just better ourselves and tactics to just really manage. Life is not always easy. It's a challenge, and Caregiving is an extra challenge for so many, and we appreciate you helping support them on this journey.
Yeah, and if there's anything I can do, even after this presentation today, feel free to reach out.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining us for this Care Compass project. We will meet again on February the 3rd. It will be a virtual program, and our topic will be on combating isolation. So hopefully you'll join us in 2021. Seems like that's a far away, but it's right around the corner for our next Care Compass project. Please share this journey of caregiving information to anybody in the county or surrounding counties. We're happy to have anybody join us so that we can support each other and provide valuable information. Thanks again, everyone.